Hey everybody, welcome back to Cascadia Dispatch, Prepping for Non-Preppers. I'm Casey. It's been a little while since I've posted a video. We've been dealing with COVID and family and all of that, and so the last few months have been a little bit difficult for me to actually film anything. I have a kind of a slate of videos that I'm going to be putting out in the next few weeks, so stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. There will be new videos coming, I promise. But in the meantime, today I was headed down to Portland to drop off some stuff. I had some donations to make, and we live in the suburbs of Portland. We live about 15 minutes outside of Portland, which is actually not that far away, but with traffic, it's like 15 minutes. I know for everyone who's in LA, they're thinking 15-minute traffic. Oh my goodness, if only that was the case. But for us, that's it's a little bit of a trick. So I was headed downtown to go drop some stuff off, and there's been a lot of conversation about the protests and the riots and the Anarchy jurisdiction that Portland has been named over the last couple of weeks. And so I figured I would just kind of bring my camera with me, and as I was driving down and in and around there, take some videos so you guys can see kind of what Portland actually looks like. I'm not going to be making any political commentary. I'm not interested in the political commentary. This is just to show that Portland was named an anarchy jurisdiction, or an anarchist jurisdiction, a couple weeks ago. And I want to just drive down and see actually what that looks like. Does it look like the Purge movies? Does it look like normal everyday Portland? What actually is going on down there? From a preparedness perspective, it's always good to know what's happening in cities that are close by. Portland obviously feeds into the suburbs quite a bit. So what happens in Portland, impacts all of the various people that live outside of it, whether you're traveling in for work or not. So, what is actually going on? So this is going to be just a relatively short video of driving around, looking at what's going on downtown. I'm going to try to get to the areas where the protests actually have happened to give you guys an idea of what that actually is looking like right now. And then that'll be it. So hope this is something that you guys are interested in. And with that, we will hit the road. Into downtown, the anarchy and fire and burning. is actually one of the biggest issues in Portland, is all of these bridges. Because none of the bridges are designed to stand up to a Cascadia style earthquake. So that is actually one of the biggest concerns. Alright, let's go see what's going on. Here is the police station and the federal building. You can see it's boarded up and there are fences around it to make sure that people are staying away. All right, so this is where all of the protests and violence and everything has been happening in Portland. So I'm gonna go walk around the block. You can see the buildings right around the protest. They have boarded up windows, but once you get about 3 blocks down, nothing else is boarded up. And there are still cars and people in and around here. So there's definitely a lot of graffiti. There's definitely been a lot of property damage to the buildings right in and around this area. But you can see that here everybody's just, they put up a basketball hoop. There's a basketball hoop right there. So another thing is there's been a lot of people talking about that there's garbage everywhere. It's actually pretty cleaned up. I was expecting this to be just an absolute apocalyptic nightmare. And there's still grass. There's still not a gigantic dumpster. There's an awful lot of graffiti, obviously. The elk statue that used to be right over there, they actually took that down just to keep it safe because it's a landmark in Portland. And so they've stored it away, but they've actually, the protesters have actually created their own elk statue as an art installation where the original elk was. So that's kind of cool. For as much violence and conflict, for some art to show up is kind of an interesting, cool thing, I think. All right. You can see a lot of buildings Oh, there's people selling shirts, and a lot of the buildings are boarded up. They've been boarded up, but a lot of them also have graffiti or art or some combination on them. It's kind of an interesting dichotomy of art and protest. Also, most of the businesses are actually open, so a lot of them have signs that are saying they're open, and there are people going in and out of them. So here, we're only about 2 blocks outside of the main protest area, and I'm not seeing anything boarded up over here. People are out walking around. People are biking, which is a very Portlandy thing to do. People are out eating. So this core area is right around Pioneer Courthouse Square, which is a big assembly area for the city. They would call it Portland's living room. So there's also a lot of big businesses in and around, and it's a really easy spot for people to protest if they want to. There's public transit around that's really easy to get here. So there's just a lot of people hanging out. There's kids out here, there's families, people are going to the food carts, jumping on the Max transit. So this is the bank that's boarded up, but it's still open. So I can't tell, obviously, when certain buildings were boarded up and when they weren't. But what I'm not seeing is Anarchy. There are policemen out. I've seen a few of them out. People are just kind of going about their daily lives. All right, so we have made it out safe and sound. Whew, gosh, I was worried. Anyway, you know, driving around there, you can tell it's not awesome. I don't know a lot about the individual politics that are going on in Portland. Again, I don't live specifically in Portland, so I don't necessarily worry about all of the headlines that are coming out. So, you know, please don't write gotchas about policies or whatever, because I just haven't taken the time to do all that research. And, you know, it's not my city. I'm to vote in Portland. So I'm just saying, as somebody who visits there, this is my take on it. Obviously, the area where the protests are happening, there were lots of boarded up windows, boarded up walls. In the absolute epicenter of the protest, you could definitely see there's a lot of damage, which is unfortunate. That's just not a great thing. We don't want to see that in any city anywhere. And for the few blocks outside of that, you could also see the businesses have put up boards and tried to protect their windows. Some of them have been painted with murals. Some of them have been painted to look like the buildings. Again, I haven't been tracking exactly what buildings were boarded up, so it's not clear whether that happened at the very beginning of this process, or whether that has happened over time. If all of those boards are still necessary, I don't know. There just seems to be a lot of boards in that kind of 4 to 6 block radius right around the federal building and where the protests are happening. Outside of that, Portland looks pretty much like Portland has always looked. I think any big city, there's some graffiti that you're gonna see, and there's lots of buildings that don't have it. I was shocked when I was down there to not see garbage literally everywhere. The way it's been described as, you know, almost you'd think it was post-apocalyptic moonscape of garbage and people and everything, and that just wasn't the case. It definitely, you can tell that things have been going on down there, but you didn't see people running around with weapons and you know, doing whatever they pleased. There were families out and walking around on the streets. People were outside in cafes having lunch. It's pretty much, it seems like, you know, business as usual in the pandemic for what it can be. So, you know, for the most part, Portland is a very large city, and where the protests are happening, it's happening, you know, in the downtown area. It's happening in very small pockets of the downtown area. So that's where I was expecting to see differences. That's what it looked like when I was down there. But I also saw police officers. I saw police cars. There is a law enforcement presence around in Portland. It may not necessarily be where everyone would like it to be. It may not be doing everything that everyone would like it to do, but it exists. Anarchy, for the most part, means an absence of law and order. And for the most part, I at least saw police officers down there. I saw people maintaining, you know, people were not running red lights. They weren't jaywalking all over the place. You know, it wasn't just pandemonium. So anyway, again, I'm not interested in the politics of it. I'm not interested in picking sides. This is just from someone who has lived in Portland, and I've seen Portland for the last 40 years. What Portland has looked like, what it looks like now, is it different? It looks a little different. It doesn't look remarkably different. And it really only looks different in a few specific areas. So anyway, for anyone who was curious in what Portland looks like now that it is an anarchist jurisdiction, and we've had, I think, going on almost 100 days of riots, that's what Portland looks like. If you're in that area, it doesn't look great. If you get outside of that area, it looks pretty much the same. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope this was interesting, especially for people who aren't in the Portland area and have been curious and, you know, maybe saw reports on the news and wanted to know what it looked like. I hope that this gives you an idea of what it looks like. And stay tuned for the next videos. If you're interested in this, please feel free to like, subscribe, share with your friends. And like I said, I will have more videos coming up. Hopefully that will be a little bit longer, a little more in depth. The rain definitely came in, which shortened my ability to really kind of video a lot of stuff, because who wants to video in the rain? That's just not awesome. So anyway, more to come. Thanks a lot. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.